Okay, welcome back everyone. Mark Sajan here, and this is a troubleshooting tutorial. So we have a student file here and a couple of things to be solved. Some of the textures are not visible when switching to Arnold. The lighting needs an update. We also want to create a fog effect, and we want to achieve that in Arnold. So what to do? We have Art Renderer enabled, and right now we are using a photographic. So let me just switch on 8. Number 8 was to open up the rendering environment and effects, and we have an HDR sky. That's great. We have physical camera exposure control, and let me just check what's going on. So first, let me hit F10 for function key, F10, and render, and see what we actually have. Okay, so this is our scene, and we want to make it a little bit more vivid. So we want to add the fog effect. We also want to add a different type of lights, I guess, and just overall something else to come up with and soften up things. Okay, so what to do? First of all, let me change the composition a little bit because it's set to blow up. Let me switch to view, and it will change how this will be rendered. Okay, so this is the actual view, what we see in the viewport when we are turning on Shift F save frame. Okay, so now it's much easier to find the composition. Now, just because of the video, it will be better if we are switching to HD, and the resolution is way too big. So right now, just let me dial this back to the usual 800. Okay, so it's fairly fast. Let me check what's going on with the composition now. So rendering it out. Not really, I made no changes in the settings of the rendering. These are just a basic render area and render save frame composition changes yet. Okay, so this is the ART renderer. Now there is an issue with the lights, and that issue is that it misses a map. So if I'm selecting the lamp, it has no shadows turned on, so it was not casting shadows. And here is this photometric web type of light, but it has a missing file. So because I will switch to Arnold, I will delete it anyway. So right now I'm just keep it as it is and switching first to Arnold and see what's going on, what's happening. So let me turn back on F10, and the renderer was Art Renderer, and let me switch to Arnold and see what's going on. Okay, so nothing really changed yet technically. We have physical camera there. We have the view and the composition changed, but this is how it looks. So as you see, compared to the previous one, there's a significant difference, and that is about missing the map. So we don't have the maps visible anymore. And that is a hint that, okay, something going on. What's going on? Usually it is a compatibility problem. So let me close this back on and open up Material Editor. I'm using the Compact Material Editor. So the modes, Compact Material Editor is selected. And as you see, these are grayed out, but it doesn't mean everything has disappeared. It means just it's not compatible with the rendering algorithm. So the material samples are using the same rendering algorithm as Arnold, and right now the preview could not be done. So this is why we have to check what's going on. And here we go. We have a diffuse color. It's a standard material, so we will switch to something else in just a moment. But it has a diffuse color and it's loaded in, but it is using a mix type of container. Now this mix map is not compatible. It seems to be not compatible with the overall thing. So what to do? We have to find a solution that does the same thing as mix, but with that is compatible with Arnold. Okay, so 2 textures are used. That's soil sand and this 4K Cirrus fictional. So that these two maps will be used. Now, just let me go back up. We have a specular level, and that was a concrete specular. But actually, I was not able to find that concrete specular, so I will dismiss that for now. This is the default one, and I will rename it to terrain. And okay, and instead of a standard, we will use a physical material. And physical material, that will be a matte paint material. It will become completely this lilac kind of color, and the roughness is still not that high. Okay, so we don't want to make that shiny. We can keep some shininess. It's great for blending in the environment. Okay, so the roughness should be under 1. That's just a personal preference, but I like to keep it on a 1 to reflect somehow, softly interact with the environment. But this 0.8 is a little bit stronger, definitely. Okay, so we need a color, and that color should be a combination. So let me find this. What I would like to choose is a kind of a color composite. So color composite will do the same thing that we did with the mix. A and B materials are here. Colors. Let me choose the bitmap for case. The first one was the soil, and the second one, the B, was bitmap, and that was the 4K Cirrus. Okay, so let me check. Alright, so this is soil and this is Cirrus. Alright, now right now only one is visible, so let me double click and see what the render preview makes. So this is what we see. But we want to blend the two together, and operation will be average. So this average can make us, okay, now it's rendered, so it blends the two, alright, 50-50. So, and because that was the previous setting, it's okay with me. So right now this average can do something very similar to us. Okay, so going back to rendering, render frame window, and let me see what we had previously. Let me double the window, so clone it, okay, just for comparison. And I can hit now render and see what's the difference, what's the main difference here at the end. Alright, so just let me size it. Okay, color is back. Color is back, and I'm still not so happy with the light. And probably we can add more to it. So right now it's a little bit dark. It's not really blending with the environment, with the sky dome. So it was better here, but it's because just it was faded out. So what we do, we have to clean up some of the render settings in the environment. Okay, so that was the fix, the quick fix for the map. Let me make it visible here. Okay, this is just this grayish tone. If I want to see actually one of the maps, I can go in and click on this visibility button and keep it as it is. So right now, if I want to see more feedback in the window, I can choose that. Okay, going up. But right now, let's switch to the light. Okay, so the light was not really okay. We will delete that light source and replace it with an Arnold compatible light. So let me delete this. And where are we? Arnold light, drag it and place it here. Okay, I wanted to keep and maintain the original orientation. Right now, because I was placing it in the top viewport, it has to be on the floor. So on the ground, let me lift this up. And the other thing is what type of light it is. So right now, it is a distant type of light. Okay, so that's fairly cool. That's absolutely fine. So distant type of light is great, and the intensity was previously reduced. Now this is coming for a reason. So if I'm checking it back to 1, this is the basic intensity. This is let me see what's going on with the basic intensity. So F10 and hit render. And what we see is still not. Yeah, okay, so we have this issue because of the light power. The shadows are there, which one is great. I'm really happy to see shadows finally there, but it's way too strong. Now, to clean up this, we can go back to the environment and effects by pressing number 8. And actually, we don't need this camera exposure control. So we can remove that no exposure control, and we don't want to use the volume fog atmospheric effect because we will use Arnold's effect. So let me delete that. And now let me render the preview and see what's going on. Remember, the intensity was set back to 1, that is the default, and it was reduced for a reason, so usually it's not really the best idea. Okay, so there's somewhat similar. So let me select the lights and change this value to 0.01. Okay, it's really low. Resulting intensity is 2.56. And let me see what's going on and how does it look now. Okay, so it's much more nicer. All right, so this liquid water or liquid whatever still has a kind of glossy feel. So by default, the Arnold renders it a little bit shiny, which one is good, but originally it had a texture. So let me look for that texture. Okay, so let me see what we can do to make this scene pop again. So material, and okay, it just takes time to load. And yeah, if I'm selecting the water, this is the water surface. Let me rename it to water to make it work. And we have a map. This was an oddly named map. Let me view the image. Okay, so this is the image that was used as a texture. So I will just right click and copy this map, or I can cut it and switch this material from a standard. I will switch to a physical material, and from the list let me choose glass. Okay, and it will be a thin geometry because this is just a flat plane surface, not flat but plane surface, so only one-sided. This is why we are choosing thin geometry, and we can add a base color even to the glass, and let me paste and copy. But if it's absolutely see-through, as you see the transparency is 100%, then it won't take effect. So if you want to see the texture slightly, so if you want to add some kind of texturized effect for the water surface, you have to reduce this transparency by 0.6 may do the work. Okay, so let me make the comparison render. So here we are, this was the previous. Clone it and see it for now. Okay, what's going on? Take some time. Right, okay. Now this water surface mixes better with the environment, so it's much better. Okay, still have to fix the Saturn. So Saturn is there. This is the material. It has this 2K Saturn texture, and yeah, that's barely visible. So let me switch to the physical material and switch to a kind of a matte paint, the usual, and paste copy ups. No, it was not that. So instead of this, let me 2K Saturn, make it happen, make it visible. Okay, roughness is set to 0.9. So it's a pretty rough thing. Okay, this one is the Saturn ring. Okay, it was an alpha PNG. Oh, let me see this texture. Okay, I'm curious about this. Okay, so it's not an alpha PNG, it is PNG 5 with alpha. Okay, Going in and copy or cut and go in physical and choose a standard matte. We can keep some shine here. Right click, paste, copy, make it visible. Okay, so let me render this out. Rendering frame window, render, and see what's happening. Okay, texture's back. So all the textures are back. Alright, now we switch the light type. We reduce the lights. We remove the camera exposure control. Change the composition a little bit. And right now it's time to add the fog effect. And we can also add something else as an interesting part of it. Maybe we can add depth of field to give more sense of depth of the scene. Okay, so what about the fog? Now fog, because we are using Arnold, you can find the fog option under the Arnold renderer. There is environment, background, and atmosphere, and there is an atmosphere tab over there. And there's no material yet, so we need to use a built-in, so Arnold built-in fog texture. If we want to adjust this, and we definitely want to adjust, we have to drag and drop it somewhere. Okay, so it was a physical material. Let me select this and drag and drop it. Okay, if it doesn't enable this, just let me wait until renders out everything. Okay, sometimes it's just a little bit crazy that you have to switch over. Okay, now it enables. All right, so it takes some time to render the previews in the material editor, or you have to reload it. But don't be surprised, sometimes it will not allow you to drop it in the material editor, so it's a weird little thing. Okay, here we are. This one is colored white, and this is the default setting. Okay, so let me see what it makes with the default. All right, so before we are moving on, just let me see how it looks with the white. Okay, it's not that bad. Actually, the only thing that disturbs a bit is the color. So probably the color should be changed to something that matches a little bit better with the Titan idea and the environment there. So it will be cool to switch this up with something. Okay, so the quality of the render is fairly good. Now let me fix this color. Okay, so if I want to reduce the overall intensity of it, I can use the distance and make it smaller as a value. Height is usually the height of the overall, so this will be kind of a horizon adjustment. Distance, also height, but it takes some time, and you can test out a couple settings. But first, just let me show how to change the color. So color could be, it can use built-in noise, for example. Built-in noise, and this noise this is default, just black and white. So let me switch to this kind of a yellow and cyan. So this kind of a Titan colors. Okay, it will mix to a greenish one. So with the Octave 1 basic linearity and the basic settings, only the colors changed. This one's a little bit noisy, a little bit grainy. So to reduce the graininess, we can change the size, set to 6 maybe. So 6 times bigger. Okay, so it's much softer. All right, so it's still vivid, but it is much smoother and softer. Okay, now once it is done, we can still add a depth of field effect that can influence the overall scene, the overall appearance. So let me cancel this. We don't want to wait that much time. And go to top viewport and Shift G to hide away geometry and select camera, and I'm pressing the spacebar to lock my selection, and I can go back to perspective and zoom in and see what the render actually looks. What is it looking at? So it's looking at, now the camera distance is placed a little bit off. So if we want to make this mountain in the point of focus, we can increase the target distance. Alright, so that's great because depth of field will use this target distance in this case. So I'm switching back to the camera viewport and walking down, enabling depth of field. So here we are, enable depth of field. And it uses the target distance, so it will read the value, what's going on here. But I'm afraid lens breadthing is 1, but aperture is set to 8. Now, the lower the number here, so let me just show this. So the lower the number here, the more blur you will see in the scene. And in our case, we don't want to lose all of the texture details and anything like that, so maybe 2 will be fine for this reason. And let me go back F10 and heat render and see the final image for myself. So it's relatively low resolution. This is the preview render. So the foreground is not that strong, but we have this nice mountain in the background. So you can still use and change the f value, the aperture value. Okay, let me calculate this. So probably this f value is way too low, so let me set back it to 8. Okay, that can still help a lot. Now, this Saturn itself is fairly close to us, so this is why it's looking something is not in distance. If you want, you can increase the elevation of the fog, or you can put it a little bit behind to have a better effect of the depth of field. But right now, I think this depth of field is fairly good. This aperture value, so it looks absolutely believable. Okay, so thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed and found it useful. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.